Welcome to the podcast. It's the magical holidays. Time for Joe watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. Why, you might ask? Because it sounds like a crazy task to be watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. It'll be struggle, no I won't lie. By the halfway point I will lose my mind, but with your support I'm gonna be fine. So let's have a blast on this Christmas time. Join me now and let's find out about today's Christmas movie. Was it good or bad? Happy or sad? Is there another dead mom and dad? Let's get to it with no delay. It's your old pal Joe and he's happy to say welcome to Joe watches 60 Christmas movies in 60 days.
How's it going, everybody? It's me, your old pal Joe, and welcome to episode 18 of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. Before we dive into the movie, of course, we need to say hello and thank you and good day, at least for, I don't know why good day. Let's just say hello and thank you to our sponsors over at Third Eye Comics. As I've mentioned for 18 episodes so far, if you need anything in the world of comics, graphic novels, gaming, like tabletop games, role-playing games, if you need miniatures, you want some board games, if you want some music, vinyl, they got vinyl. If you want some movies, they got movies on Blu-ray, they got 4K movies. Whatever your heart's content or your heart desires, yeah, that's it. Let's go with that. Whatever your heart desires, please check out Third Eye Comics over at shop.thirdeyecomics.com. And if you do buy something from them, let them know Joe sent you so that they know that by supporting me, we had some people supporting them. All right, let's move on to the movie. Today's movie is a very charming Christmas town. We're almost a third of the way through, and the doldrums are starting to hit, and they're starting to hit hard. This movie was fine. It was corny at times, but it wasn't offensive. It just was whatever. It was a big pile of whatever. I don't know. Let's just talk about it. We opened with so much fake snow falling down the screen. I'm tired of seeing fake snow falling down the screen. Nicely Productions, I think that's what you're called. You need to cut that shit out. Did they make this movie? I don't know. But they've made about half of the movies I've watched so far. You need to cut this fake snow shit out. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of my screen looking like it's covered in gray dandruff when it's just you trying to make me feel like it's snowy out. Either find a place that's snowy or just let it not be snowy, because this is some weird in-between bullshit. We get a lot of shots of this very charming Christmas town that was referenced in the title. Its name is Solvang, and it's going to be the setting for almost all of this movie. But before we get there, we stop in a Los Angeles home during Christmas, so that means there's no snow. And we see sisters Reagan and Aubrey talking about what to cover for their big-time travel blog. When I say big time, I cannot express to you how popular this blog is in the world of this movie. People recognize the writers from it when they appear places. It's insane. So they're talking about what to cover, and that's when Reagan suggests they look into the town of Solvang. It's the most Christmassy town in America. They don't even normally get snow there, because it's also, I think it's also in California. They don't normally get snow there, but they just got it for the first time in 4 years. The town also has a whole website of activities that you can participate in. It's just a wonderful tourist trap. Well, I don't want to say tourist trap derisively. It's just a wonderful place that likes having tourists. Reagan thinks that this is what Aubrey needs to get away from it all. Maybe she can even meet a guy there. And also maybe it'll be the inspiration Aubrey needs to start writing music again. We'll find out more about her flagging musical writing career later on. After some back and forth, Aubrey agrees, let's go to Solvang. And then we are in Solvang. It was just a drive away. Probably a long drive, but just a drive. We hear a few citizens talk. Aubrey gets out of the car and we hear some citizens talking about how, man, this place is so popular now because of all the snow that we've gotten. Everybody's coming to town, especially because we got the snow. I mean, they come to town anyway, but the snow has made it even more Christmassy than usual. We get a shot at the, we get to introduce some characters away from Aubrey. There's a bed and breakfast that she's going to be staying at, so we get some preview of some characters there. There's Laurel and Hayden, who run the bed and breakfast, and then there's their buddy Sawyer, who is eventually going to be wanting to smooch on Aubrey, our main character. They're talking about all the tourists that are in town, and we get specifically Sawyer mentioning how he doesn't care. He says it sarcastically. He says, oh man, I love me some tourists from L.A., and we know, us, me and you, know that that's where Aubrey's coming from. So we know he's saying it sarcastically, but he does not like tourists from Los Angeles. Man, I feel like I'm screwing this podcast up already. I feel like this is terrible. We're only 5 minutes in, and it makes me want to start over, but this is too my time is too precious. My time is too limited. So yeah, Aubrey has arrived in town. As soon as she gets out of her car, she is beset upon by kitschy novelty salespeople. This, one with a board of ornaments that you can buy from, one with a tray of foods you can buy. As we see Aubrey checking in at the bed and breakfast, she mentions to her sister Reagan that this place is a tourist trap with all these kitschy things everywhere, which I've already used the word kitschy once. While talking on the phone, she is almost hit by a golf cart driving down the road. Who should be driving it? But it's also not a golf cart. It's like a bicycle type vehicle that has a cab that looks like a golf cart. You can imagine that. I thought it was a golf cart when I took my notes, but it's not. Anyway, who should be driving it but Sawyer? They get into a shouting match about whose fault it was that she almost got hit, but then Aubrey apologizes and says she's had a long day of travel. She then gets directions to the bed and breakfast. Later that night, it's time for the tree lighting ceremony. The crowd counts down, and boom, the big tree lights up. You've never seen anything like it. People lose their minds. No, not really. I'm just bored writing these notes. Afterward, Aubrey arrives at the bed and breakfast. I thought she went there earlier. Maybe I was wrong. Anyway, she thinks the bed and breakfast is quite charming. She even says as much to one of the proprietors. That would be Laurel, the lady she becomes friends with later on. Laurel has prepared a platter of pastries just for Aubrey's arrival. We find out Laurel is a huge fan of the Sisters Travel blog, like a mega fan. She even knows Aubrey used to be in the music field. Aubrey is drafted to help Laurel decorate the tree that arrived earlier that day. Despite herself, Aubrey has a good time helping her decorate the tree. We then cut to her in her room writing. She starts her piece on the town of Solvang by describing it as, quote, Santa's tourist trap, but then rethinks it after noticing some of the charm that's in her bed and breakfast room, like an old coaster, things that aren't as tourist trappy and are genuinely interesting or charming, so she kind of softens on that idea. Maybe this place isn't so bad after all, she thinks. Afterward, or maybe the next day, it doesn't matter, she heads to the visitor center to look for a guy who might be able to help show her around town. Unfortunately, he can't, but his son can. I will give you one guess who the son is. Yes, that's right, it's Sawyer, the guy she got into an argument with earlier. He'll show her around. Cut to them mid-tour. Aubrey's not buying this whole vibe of the town. What's the real Solvang like, she asks. The entire town feels like one big shtick. Can he prove her wrong? He says, look, the Christmas vibe is part of the town's history. He talks about the founding of the town and how it came by its Dutch. Everything looks like it's a Dutch village. And it came upon that look honestly, about who settled there, then who replicated what was settled before them, things like that. She says that might be the case, but maybe the town leans into that look and that vibe a little too much for a gimmick. He says even if that was the case, would it be so bad? People find it charming. She says not everything here is charming, and we know she's talking about Sawyer. She says she wants to get to the heart of Solvang and figure out what makes it so special. Can he help her? And Sawyer thinks, and he goes, you know what? I can't help you figure that out. There's no help for someone who doesn't see the charm immediately. He walks away, and she follows, trying to get him to change his mind. She asks for another chance. Instead of answering, he says she's too preoccupied with herself and getting the perfect shot or the perfect story, the perfect angle, to actually see the town for herself. He finds out that she likes chocolate and then asks when the last time she allowed herself to eat an entire chocolate bar was. She doesn't see what that has to do with anything. He says, well, when was the last time you danced in the rain? She says, well, the rain in L.A. is very dirty. Fine. When was the last time you did something, went on a trip, or did an activity, something that it wasn't for the blog? And Aubrey deflects. She says, look, if you promise to show me the real Solvang, I promise to try and enjoy the real Solvang. She even offers to pay him. He agrees, but the only payment he'll take is her autograph. It turns out his little sister, I think it's Gibby or something like that, is a huge fan of hers. Specifically one of the songs that she wrote for another artist. Say like that universe's Britney Spears, for example. Aubrey is embarrassed to know that people know this about her, but agrees to give him an autograph. Cut to them walking around. They stop at a candy shop where the proprietor is his godmother named Estelle. It's not just a candy shop. It's also like a novelty shop. They have like stuffed animals and trinkets and little statues. They're there for a Nisa, as it's said, and I don't know how it's spelled exactly. It's some sort of elf/troll gimmick, some sort of deal where these little dolls, they look like they could be elves. They have long torsos and they have big hats, and you don't have eyes. The hats just go to their noses, and then you see the nose and a beard. They sell dolls of them there in the shop, and we find out that the legend of them is they protect the land. Anyway, Aubrey thinks it's adorable. She takes pictures around the shop. As she wanders around, Estelle asks Sawyer if there's anything between the two of them. He insists there sure isn't. Then Aubrey finds something she wants to buy. It's 2 twin storks. Whatever. She loves them. There's little, little ceramic things you'd put on your shelf, but they're twin storks with blue design on them. Afterward, they chat about the possibility of it snowing again. He says he's not sure about that. It'd have to be a miracle. He says, do you think that's possible? She says, I don't know, but I do think that this town might make people think it's possible. They make plans for the next day. Back at the bed and breakfast, Aubrey is drafted by Laurel to help make costumes for a nativity play coming up in the next few days. She also complains a lot about Sawyer. Laurel understands why he might be annoying, but he has such a good heart. He's also the best catch in town outside of her husband. The two women laugh. Then talk turns to Aubrey. Is she seeing anyone? No. She says, I tried the whole love thing, and it just didn't work out. And look, maybe there's a person in the real world. Maybe it's you who would tell someone, I've tried that whole love thing and it didn't work out. But it sounds like something that's only said in movies. Like maybe, not maybe, almost certainly, you have had your heart broken and you have been made sad by what love has rendered. But would you still refer to it as that whole love thing, as if it's some sort of weird phase? I've tried that whole vegetarian thing, and it just didn't work out for me. I've tried that whole, watching a bunch of movies in a limited amount of dates thing, and honestly, it just destroys me mentally and physically. She then talks about how her last relationship ended. They talked about this is terrible. I can see why this might put somebody off of that whole love thing. So Aubrey, who is quite attractive, just a pretty actress woman in this movie. And I say that because it's not like she is presented as somebody who would have trouble getting attention from someone she might be interested in. Additionally, she has a successful business with her sister, the blog. I think she does other writing as well. She seems pretty well put together. She also had a successful songwriting career. This is what happened the last time she got engaged. The last time she had a relationship. They talked about getting engaged, but when they finally did, he decided a week later that he made a mistake by asking her. The part that hurt the most was that he was just being honest, so she couldn't hate him. She came to understand he wasn't the right one for her either. So they got engaged, and then a week later, he was like, remember that whole engagement thing we talked about? Maybe we don't need to do that after all. She mentions how she wrote her best songs when she was with him. Now we cut over to Sawyer visiting his family. He helps make gingerbread cookies. When he tells them about the tour, they think there may be something between he and Aubrey. He insists that there isn't. The next day, we start at the bakery. Aubrey is there to check it out. The owner says she must be that blogger that's come to town. She sure is. She chats with the owner while waiting for Sawyer to arrive. She mentions her tour guide is this handsome guy everyone seems to love, etc., etc. And it turns out the woman running the bakery is Sawyer's mom. There are still 50 minutes in this movie, I write in my notes. We rejoin Sawyer and Aubrey talking about the town's nativity play. She's really impressed how they put it on and how little they charge to attend. And he goes, well, back in the day, we didn't even charge anything, but then cost became enough that we had to charge something, so everybody tried to work it out to the best they could. Something along those lines. As I put in my notes, he explains how they can charge so little. Maybe I'll remember in order to explain to the listener. Eventually, Sawyer and Aubrey find a chocolate shop. The person working there is Sawyer's sister. She's blown away to meet the real Aubrey. Not the real Aubrey. It's not like there's going to be a fake one. You know what I'm saying. She says her lyrics are the best. We find out Sawyer owns the chocolate shop, which makes Aubrey to pretend not to like the chocolate shop. I did not enjoy this scene where she keeps pretending to not like things that she finds out he has a hand in. Also, how well off is his family? That they own the bakery. The dad at least works at the tourist center. He was the one that said, oh, my son can show you around. Sawyer runs the chocolate shop, owns the chocolate shop. What's going on in this town? Is this one family just taking over? At the chocolate shop, Aubrey actually loves everything she tries. Eventually they talk about their childhoods and whether they were the good one or not in their family, because they both grew up with siblings. Aubrey says she was the good one, or maybe the adaptable one. She did whatever her sister told her, which got her into trouble a lot, but it was never her doing on her own. They make plans to go to some play or whatever that night. I think it's the Nativity play. We get a scene where Aubrey comes downstairs at the bed and breakfast for the play looking very pretty, and Sawyer is all, wow. And we cut to the Nativity play. As they watch, Aubrey gets cold. It's outside, by the way. And Sawyer gives her his jacket. Aw. That night, we see Aubrey writing. She decides that the town isn't a tourist trap, so she needs a new hook for her story. The next morning, she talks about her trouble with her story with Laurel, and Laurel wonders if she's not staying in town longer, not for the story maybe, but actually to get to know Sawyer better. Aubrey insists that's not the case. Cut to Sawyer and Aubrey on a candlelight walking toward the town. Aubrey did not know that this walking toward the town would just be them, so it's kind of awkward that there's just these two people walking on a fully lit town street with candles in their cups. It's not like the candles light their way. The town is lit. Stores are lit up. Everything's lit up. They have a nice time on this tour, and he even quotes one of her songs back at her to show that he's investigating her, or looking into her, that he cares about her, whatever you want to put it. He points out that there are other storks around town, like the one she purchased at the shop. The storks there represent good luck, fertility, protection, and love. She thinks that's sweet. Back to her writing. We are 40 minutes away from the end. The last bit has only been 10 minutes. Now it's time for the Solvang Christmas Parade. We follow Aubrey, Sawyer, and the people that run the bed and breakfast, Laurel and Hayden, as they all have a great time. They end their journey at an ice cream shop where Sawyer serves them. Does he own this too? He does own this too. It's also, cause I found that the ice cream shop is actually part of the chocolate shop. As they enjoy their ice cream, Sawyer asks Aubrey why she stopped writing music. She says her heart wasn't in it anymore. We know from her discussion with Laurel earlier that it's actually because she had her heart broken with her breakup. And it seemed like being in love made it a lot easier for her to express herself through songwriting. And thus, conversely, being out of love made it harder. She adds that she started writing another song last night, which must mean that her heart is interested in something. I wonder who that could be. Laurel overhears that Aubrey has started writing a new song, and talk turns to a song that Aubrey actually sang herself on the soundtrack for some movie. Laurel says that Sawyer's sister found it, and she plays it for everyone, and they dance and they have a nice time. But Aubrey is appreciably embarrassed at the song being played where she's singing. Cut to Sawyer and Laurel sneaking out so the other two can have some alone time. We see them, the remaining two, Aubrey not Sawyer and Laurel, Hayden and Laurel, sneak out. They're the couple that run the bed and breakfast, which leaves Sawyer and Aubrey behind, making candies and small talk. They start talking about relationships and how neither of them having someone. He mentions how he never brought someone back to the chocolate shop, which leads to them kissing. Oh, wait, sorry. No, of course it doesn't. The chocolate machine has a problem, so they don't kiss, and they never get back to kissing. Until next time. Cut to Aubrey telling her sister about how she's going to be staying in town longer. Her sister picks up on what's going down, even though Aubrey denies it. She insists that's not the case. Her sister wanted the story done by now so she can edit it. Aubrey is willing to send what she has done so far, though. And she does. She sends her sister a version of the story. Her sister says, no problem. I'll get to editing what you've already finished. They continue talking about Sawyer and how much she absolutely does not like him. Her sister, Reagan, says that she hasn't seen Aubrey like this in a long time. She should stay there as long as she needs. Aubrey is a bit embarrassed, but agrees. The next morning, we find out that Laurel from the bed and breakfast can sing really well. This leads into her telling a terrible story about how her dad, who was into music and wanted to be a musician, died in a terrible accident on the way to a gig. And that this basically taught her a very bad lesson about pursuing your dreams, such as wanting to be a singer. And it made her not want to be a singer because her dad died pursuing that. It's a terrible story. Between this and the getting engaged and the person asking for a refund a week later, that's two really bad stories in this. Talking about Laurel being a singer or having singing talent, Aubrey mentions that she's been writing a new song, or she puts it in this scene, new music. And Laurel acts like this is news to her when she just heard about it in the scene a few scenes ago. This is the kind of bullshit that I have to deal with in these movies, where something happens in the movie, then the movie just forgets about it. And it's like, you're making the movie. There's an editor out there who put this together. There's somebody who watched this. And are they paying attention? Because Laurel was so excited when she found out that Aubrey was writing a new song that she mentioned that, oh, I heard about this song that where you actually sang instead of just wrote the song, and she played it for everyone. Do you remember that? I remember that. How could the movie forget it? It happened in the movie. And yet here we are with Laurel acting like she didn't know Aubrey was writing a new song. Then it's time for a scavenger hunt. It's basically two groups of adults. That's Hayden and Laurel from the bed and breakfast, and Sawyer and Aubrey as our main couple, against a bunch of kids. So because it's basically 4 adults against a bunch of kids, they get a special scavenger hunt just for them. Each group has to find a pair of Nisa elf things that are hidden in town, and they get clues that lead them to the location of them. The first clue leads Sawyer and Aubrey to his parents' house. While they look around, she apologizes for her attitude when she got to town. He says it's okay. She thanks him for helping lower her walls and for being a good... And then she's not sure how to finish that sentence, so she says friend. And the word hits Sawyer like a ton of bricks. She realizes what she did, so she goes in for a kiss, but then Sawyer's sister walks in. No kisses for them. And this made me think that I should start a new trope where that people try to kiss but then don't kiss. But I don't really want to do that. So we can just keep that in our head mentally when the movie features a kiss that doesn't happen. Anyway, the sister says that there are no Nisa there in the house. So then they head to the gift shop where Estelle works. While they look around, Estelle tries to get the scoop from Aubrey on what's going on between Aubrey and Sawyer. She says godmother. Remember that. Estelle says godmother. And she says that Sawyer is precious and for Aubrey not to hurt him. She promises she won't. She lies. She does hurt him by the end of the movie. Spoiler. Estelle gets her to leave her name and number. She basically says, if I know you're heading back home to wherever you live in California, Los Angeles, I guess. But if you want to be kept up to date on different events and goings on in town, you can leave your name and number. And that way I can call you or let you know if we have any special events in town. And so then Aubrey does, in fact, leave her name and number. I mention that because I think it's going to come up later. Well, now I know it does, but also at the time I thought it did. They find no Nisa there in the shop, and Estelle thinks that their clue might actually lead them back to their bed and breakfast. Off they go in a horse-drawn carriage. While on the carriage, Sawyer asks Aubrey out on a real date for her last night in town. She accepts. They're both giddy. Then they hold hands. They make it back to the bed and breakfast and look around, cut over to Laurel and Hayden, who also have arrived at the bed and breakfast looking for the Nisa. But then Laurel gets an alert on her phone that there's a new post on Aubrey's travel blog. And what happens is she looks it up, and Reagan has posted the story that Aubrey sent to her. And unfortunately for everybody involved, it's the original version of the story, which was titled Santa's Tourist Trap. And here's a couple of problems with this. She never said she was going to post it. In fact, she said she just wanted to get started editing it. And you'd also think she'd write back to Aubrey or text her, call her, and be like, okay, I got that draft. I've done editing it. Do you want to go ahead and publish it to the blog? I know you're still there, in theory, writing the story, but why don't we publish it anyway? None of that makes any sense, but the movie can't continue if it follows its own rules. So we have to have a scene here where Reagan, the apparently stupidest sister that there can be, publishes an unfinished story while the writer is still in the town writing about the town. Because we have to have the bad version of the story, which makes fun of the town, that has to get published. Laurel reads this and is very sad that her friend could have written something like this about the town she loves so dearly. Back to Sawyer and Aubrey. They search around the bed and breakfast when Aubrey notices it's snowing outside. She's very excited about this. And then they find the Nisas. But then Sawyer and Aubrey celebrate and kiss, except they don't kiss. This is the third kiss fake out in this movie. This movie loves the fake kisses. This is because Laurel walks up and asks, "How could you write such a thing?" Aubrey is confused, but then figures out that she must have sent her sister the wrong version. Yeah, that's part of the problem. You sent her the wrong version, but also is the problem where your sister just published it sight unseen without letting you know. Sawyer almost has tears in his eyes when he reads the headline. She says, no, but this is from 2 weeks ago, which tells you how long she's been in town. Before I fell for this place. Before I fell for you, she tells Sawyer. He thinks that maybe this was all just a ruse for them to get hits, her and her sister. He then quotes a part of the town of the story where she shits on Sawyer. I forget how I didn't write it down, but basically she makes fun of Sawyer in some way, and so he quotes that right in her face. Sawyer walks away. Laurel says, look, I do believe you when you say this is not the version you meant to publish, but it's still wrong that you would ever say such mean things about this town. And everyone there hates Aubrey. Aubrey is sad. We cut to her at home having left town. Reagan comes in to check on her. Reagan sees how important this guy was to her, and she finds out that her sister was even writing music again. Aubrey is very, very sad. There is no discussion here that Reagan posted a story that ran contrary to everything her sister said without checking with her sister first. There's not a single syllable spoken about that topic. We check in with Sawyer. He's very sad. Now back to Aubrey. Her sister is heading home because she doesn't live in the same city. Not titty. That's a different word altogether, guys. She doesn't live in the same city as Aubrey, so she had to basically leave town to visit her sister, and now she has to head back to her family. But she notices a package on Aubrey's doorstep. Inside is a letter from Laurel saying that they knew she didn't mean to mess things up. And Laurel is also really sad to see her go because they became such good friends. She mentions how she thinks her new song is so good. Don't know how she read it. Don't know how she heard it. Don't know anything about that. She wishes she could sing it herself. She also sent over the storks that Aubrey bought and apparently forgot in her room. Aubrey posts her updated story to the travel blog. We see people in Solvang read it and like it. Cut to Aubrey packing. She has a plan. She calls someone to ask for a favor. How fast can they lay a track down for her? And I'm like, Aubrey, based upon the timing of everything that I'm seeing, it is Christmas Eve. And you're asking somebody to work on Christmas Eve to make you music? We cut to Solvang, where they prepare for a Christmas Eve concert. Aubrey is there. She called ahead and told Hayden, who helped set up something. Just let me tell you what's happening. Is that this track that she wanted someone to lay down, is she made backing music so that Laurel can sing her new song. Laurel doesn't know this yet. So basically she worked with Hayden and other people in the town to get the music to them and to surprise Laurel with a surprise performance at the Christmas Eve musical concert. This does not seem the best way to inspire someone to do work, but that is what happened. Laurel's ecstatic to see her friend, but then Hayden and Aubrey break the news to Laurel that she's going to be singing Aubrey's new song there at the Christmas concert. She is very excited. And then we see Sawyer's there, and he's only happy to see Aubrey. He's not sad. He's not conflicted. He's only happy to see her. And you know who else is there? Aubrey's sister Reagan and her family, which is a husband and at least 2 kids, are also there. We get some chit-chat between Aubrey and Sawyer. They make peace. I'm not really sure how this is happening or why it's happening, because there is no tension at all. This doesn't make any sense. He was so mad at her. Anyway, it's time for Laurel to sing. I skipped the song. Sorry, everyone. But everybody in the movie, at least they think it's amazing. Sawyer and Aubrey kiss, and the movie ends immediately. I do not recommend a very charming Christmas town. There's things in there that you may like, and if so, more power to you. For me, it was a whole bunch of tropes thrown into a bag and jumbled around with nothing really novel to help me get through it to the next scene. It wasn't bad, but I've seen like 12 of these movies already. I've seen more movies than just that, but of this specific type, I've already seen like 12 of them. So it's tiresome. Was there an MVP in this movie? I would like to keep doing the MVP thing. I think it's fun to find a shining star even among a dark night. So the MVP of this movie is going to be Laurel. I thought she was pretty sweet. I liked her character. She was fun to watch, and she felt pretty grounded, even if she did forget that her friend wrote a song and then had to be reminded later on and acted like she didn't know her friend was writing a new song. So the MVP of this movie is Aubrey. That's it. That's the episode. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. I know this is true because I've already watched the goddamn movie. Until then, take care. I don't know. There's nothing else. Just take care. Just take care. That's it. That's the end of the episode.